This case is a mind-blowing spectacle. Each season features a case that has netizens rolling with laughter. This next one will plunge Patrick into an even more bizarre predicament. The story kicks off with a blooded man sprawled on the ground, and the secretary seeing this immediately freaks out. The investigation team swoops in like lightning. The victim, Pollard, is the founder of a foundation that's on a mission to take down human trafficking. He was supposed to expose the heinous deeds of traffickers in front of the public today, but instead, he was dismissed early. But this righteous warrior met an unfortunate fate. According to the secretary, the boss received a mysterious text right before going on stage and hurried up. The text shows that a colleague named Carmen summoned the deceased to her office. The police are puzzled about this colleague. Could he be the mastermind? They have already tasked the tech team to verify, but Patrick feels something's off. The victim's fate is linked to a fire extinguisher, and this happened in a public place. At first glance, it looks like a crime of passion, but the killer sent a text definitely premeditated, and shockingly, there were no other signs of violence. Clearly, the killer wasn't just out for thrills. It seemed more like a desperate act. Patrick theorizes that the killer wanted to stop Brad from doing something. Brad's stubbornness led to his demise. Suddenly, the detective beside him chimes in. Patrick has known Christy for ages. She helped crack a murder case for the Investigation Bureau last year using her psychic powers. Now she's transformed into a police consultant. Patrick has always doubted her psychic abilities, and when they meet, sparks are flying. Patrick is convinced her so-called psychic abilities are just a front, much like when he once pretended to be a psychic to make some. In reality, he relies on keen observation and reasoning to figure out what people are thinking even before they open their mouths. But Christy immediately counters, stating that she became a police consultant to use her skills to help more people. Meanwhile, Agent Chu gets word that Peter is having trouble tracing the texts the deceased received. It seems the killer encrypted the messages on purpose. Otherwise, they'd be getting clues left and right. Trisha decides to dig into the deceased's relationships and starts with finding Brad's wife. But Mrs. Brad claims her husband never discusses work with her, so she knows very little except for a big secret. Recently, her husband received a ton of death threats from traffickers since his foundation is fighting human trafficking like a boss. Maybe her death is related, and with that, the atmosphere just turned heavy. At this moment, Christy suddenly claims she heard her husband speaking. Using her psychic abilities, it seems she saw something. Patrick mocks from the sidelines, saying that if Christy can remember what the deceased looked like at his wedding, why can't she tell everyone who the killer is? She explains that communicating with the other side is always quite complicated, and Patrick just doesn't want to get into it. He finally asks Mrs. Pollard if she knows a person named Carmen, the sender of the text to the deceased. Mrs. Pollard claims she's never heard of them. On the other side, Ju indulges you and find the deceased assistant, Xiao Hei. As the assistant, he must know some inside info. Facing police inquiries, he initially didn't want to get involved. After some persuasion from them, he finally spilled the beans. Turns out they worked with an anti-human trafficking organization that helped them take down many trafficking groups. But as their investigation deepened, this so-called anti-trafficking association was actually a trafficking organization using Pollard's foundation to crush the company. This morning, Pollard planned to expose this association at a conference. His assistant warned him it was too dangerous, but Pollard didn't listen. He still went ahead and prepared his speech, and guess what? Before he could even take the stage, he was taken out. The assistant handed over a backup of the speech, and the Bureau discovered that a guy named Lynch is the president of the Anti-Trafficking Association. In response to the agent's questioning, Lynch puts on an innocent act and calmly claims he can provide all records to prove their innocence. Dao Xiuying asked all the witnesses he interviewed if they knew who Carmen was, but Lynch and assistant Xiao Hei denied any knowledge. However, President Lynch reveals that Pollard had many enemies, and he saw him arguing with a man at the bar a few days ago. Dao Xiuying and Ju reported the lead to their department, but of course, they couldn't fully trust what Lynch said. Xu quickly investigated the man's phone records and found that after he and Dao Xiuying left, Lynch made only one phone call. Notably, this call was an anonymous temporary call. Tracking the signal revealed it led to an abandoned warehouse. The two set off for the warehouse again, and Tricia and Patrick also followed the lead to find the man who argued with the victim, only to discover Christy had already beaten them there. The man was wearing sunglasses at night, which seemed really suspicious. Reluctantly, he took them off after Patrick insisted. Turned out his clash with Pollard was due to a black eye Pollard gave him. Was all of this his fault? He was just trying to hit on Pollard's wife. This incident infuriated Pollard, who gave him a serious beating. The man claimed it looked like Pollard was just defending his wife, but in reality, he just wanted to create a false alibi. The night before Pollard was killed, he saw a young woman leave his room. The woman's attire made him think she was a prostitute. Upon hearing this, Christie suddenly had an idea, and meanwhile, Xu and Dao Xiang had already arrived at the abandoned warehouse where the signal last appeared, surrounded by fireproof barriers. Clearly, something was being concealed here. Struggling their way in, they heard weak cries coming from a nearby container. Without hesitation, she smashed the lock on the container, and what he saw left them both stunned. The evidence of President Lynch's human trafficking operation couldn't be clearer. The girls in that container were all trafficked by the so-called Anti-Trafficking Association. This is a shocking conclusion nobody saw coming. After this revelation, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.